If you are wanting to grow on Pinterest, understanding the Pinterest algorithm, what it is, and how to beat it is an absolutely crucial step in growing your account. And in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you exactly that, everything that you need to know about the Pinterest algorithm and the tips and tricks that you can use to beat the Pinterest algorithm to ultimately grow your account and be more successful on Pinterest. Now, when it comes to the Pinterest algorithm, there are basically two algorithms at play here that not a lot of people realize. They maybe see it, but they don't necessarily realize that this is two different algorithms, and there's different ways to beat these two types of algorithms. So the first one is the actual home feed algorithm. You can see when I'm scrolling through my feed, it's just suggesting a lot of things based on different criteria that we'll talk about. But this is one way that you can discover and beat the algorithm inside of Pinterest is if by going through your home feed and making sure that your pins show up inside of here. Now, the second place where you can go through and beat the algorithm is through Pinterest search. And that's if I go over here and I search for something. Let's say that I'm looking for some Halloween decor and I just look right here. Now there are pins showing up right here as well inside on the top this way. And you can see, of course, when you type in Halloween decor, there's lots of different images and things for Halloween decor. Now, the question is, how do you get your pins to show up in both of these algorithms, both in the home discovery feed and inside of the search discovery feed? Now, when Pinterest decides to put a pin in front of someone, whether in the search tab or in the home feed, there are four distinct factors that they're looking at in order to determine which pin is best to put in front of someone. The first factor is the domain quality. And I think a lot of people don't realize that the domain that they're sending people to from the pin is that important, but the domain quality is very important. Just like in Google search, how Google goes through and crawls the website to make sure that when people click on the organic listing or the ad, that it's taking them to something that's relevant, Pinterest does the exact same thing. So if your domain or the landing page that you are sending people to is something that people are engaging with and interacting with, then that's a good sign, obviously. If you're sending them to somewhere where they're clicking and they're getting something that they're not expecting and automatically clicking out or getting bombarded by a bunch of different ads or spammy things, then chances are your domain quality in the eyes of Pinterest is going to be higher or lower. And the second factor, which is one that I think most people think about when they think about something like this, that is the pin quality itself. This is measured by engagement such as likes, saves, comments, different things like that. In my opinion, the most important metric for pin quality, though, is saves. The reason for this is the easiest way for Pinterest to understand and identify which content is actually helpful for a user, because if somebody goes through and saves it, that means that they found it very valuable and they want to come back to that pin. The third factor that they look at is the pinner quality or the account quality that you have inside of Pinterest. A lot of different things that go into this measurement, including how often you pin, how often you engage with other people inside of Pinterest. And one of the most important factors in the pinner's quality is your history of engagement with previous pins. Now, this is probably something a lot of people don't want to hear, but this is the harsh truth. If you look at it just from a Pinterest standpoint, if you have an account that has gone through and had hundreds of pins that have gone quote unquote viral or have been high quality, chances are when you go through and post another pin, the algorithm is going to see that and be like, okay, I want to push this out to as many people as possible because the last 50 that this person has posted have done really well, or the last 10 that this person has posted has done really well. When you take that in contrast with an account maybe that has posted just a bunch of spam links or hundreds or thousands of pins that just haven't really done anything, what makes you think that the Pinterest algorithm is going to favor when you go through and pin something again? So something to always think about when you are going through and creating pins is to always have a high bar and a high standard on what your pins look like and how you want them to look and perform. And the fourth and final thing that the Pinterest algorithm takes into factor is the topic relevancy. You can look at this as well as like making sure that you have the right keywords inside of your pins and different things like that. But this is also a huge factor in making sure that when you are searching for something like Halloween decor, you're actually seeing Halloween decor. Because obviously if I go through and search for Halloween decor and I'm seeing random things that have nothing to do with it, maybe say Easter decor or maybe cameras or random things, then that's not going to be a good user experience for me as a user. And therefore I won't really use Pinterest going forward. So the search term relevancy is very important, obviously in the eyes of the Pinterest algorithm. So now that we understand what the Pinterest algorithm is looking for, here are 7 quick tips that you can utilize today in order to start beating the Pinterest algorithm. The first is to use relevant keywords, and this one may seem very obvious, but I think oftentimes overlooked. Make sure you're using relevant keywords inside of your images, inside of your captions, inside the titles, inside the descriptions, anywhere where you can go through and add relevant keywords. Be sure you go through and do that. Make sure you're not keyword stuffing, but add relevant keywords when possible. Tip number 2 is to go through and post fresh content as much as possible. And I know this is not what you want to hear, something that's an unpopular opinion. You can't just go through and take the same image and post it a million times. You can go through and reuse that image, and I do it often. I'm guilty of it as well. But I will say, when I do reuse content inside of Pinterest, I have tested this multiple times and seen that it does not perform as well as a brand new, fresh image that I'm using for the very first time inside of Pinterest. So take that for what it's worth. Don't take that as, hey, you can never reuse content inside of Pinterest or kind of change pins or headlines and different things like that. But just know, creating fresh content is probably going to give you the best chance on going viral or having your pin show up more often. The third tip is to go through and actually engage in the platform. And I'm not talking about getting some sort of bot that goes through and likes or comments for you, different things like that. I'm talking about actually going on the platform, interacting with people, commenting on people who have commented on your posts, or going to other posts and going through and commenting on these. It's hard to understand maybe how big of an impact this may have on the algorithm, but I still think it's something that's important to do to show Pinterest that your account is somebody that's active and is a real human. You got to believe that on the back end, they have analytics that show kind of, here's the typical activities that a bot does, and here's the typical activities that a human does. I'm sure they favor accounts that have more of the human-like activity. I would encourage you to go through and comment and engage on posts just like naturally, not trying to go hard on it and do 1,000 comments a day or whatever it is, but just go through and act like a human on Pinterest. The fourth tip is to grab attention as fast as possible. When you're scrolling through the feed, you're competing against tens of others of pins that are showing up at the exact same time. So you need to find a way to differentiate your pin from theirs. Go through and search other niches and find out what's working, and adopt different styles on what's working, and ask yourself, how can I use that style in my niche? If you're doing videos, ask yourself, how can you create a captivating hook that utilizes all the elements inside of Pinterest? If you're creating pins, ask yourself, how can I give as much value as possible as soon as somebody sees this pin to encourage them to go through and click on that pin? And that actually leads to the next tip inside of Pinterest, and that is to add text overlay, especially if you're using video. A lot of times people do not have the sound on inside of Pinterest, so having text overlay is huge, and having text on your images themselves and playing with the fonts and colors, I have found makes a huge difference inside of Pinterest. I cannot overstate this too much. The text and how big or how small it is, or the actual fonts, is something that you should be testing often inside of Pinterest. And tip number 6 is, when you are going through and creating pins, always ask yourself, how can I make this pin more savable? How can I provide the most value possible in this pin that is going to encourage my target audience to want to save this pin? This is a question that you should always be asking yourself first before you go through and create a pin, because ultimately that is the end goal, is to create a pin that is valuable enough to get your target audience to want to save that pin. And in turn, as more people save it, your pin is going to get shown more by Pinterest. And the 7th and final tip is to make sure that you are taking advantage of trends. Pinterest has a very powerful tool to help you identify trends. There's also third-party tools that you can use to identify which trends are coming up and which ones are happening right now. Going through and trend hacking has been one of the keys to success in growing my own Pinterest account, and I would encourage you to do the same. If you want to learn more in depth how to take advantage of trends and go viral inside of Pinterest, I recommend checking out this video right here, and we'll see you in the next one.